It's 5:30. We will call this meeting to order. I'll ask our deputy clerk, Miss Carrillo, to call the roll, please.
Here.
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 Here. Mr. Radford,
Here.
Mr. Self,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Watkins,
Here.
and Mayor Davidson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I will ask Mayor Pro Tem Cordova to lead our invocation and Councilor Rackler with the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the New Mexico flag. Everybody stand if you can.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for all of the blessings that you bestow upon our community. We want to ask for you to guide us with intentional purposes to make the best decisions that we can for our community and the citizens that live in it. We want to pray for all of our staff, for all of our citizens that live in Portales, and that make everything that make our community a great place. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the state symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Okay, welcome to everybody. Ms. Mitchell, are there any guests attending remotely? Okay. You identify?
It's Diane Ventura
Okay.
from U.S. Senator Martin Hendricks.
Okay, gotcha.
Name.
No, that's okay. Okay, our first item is approval of the minutes of the May 5th, 2026 meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes or any objection to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes stand approved as presented by unanimous consent. We are going to bypass the public comment disclaimer tonight because we have no one taking advantage of that. So we will go directly to presentation item 1, Police Department update. Unanimous consent. Enter unanimous consent, please. Presentation item 1, Police Department update on photo enforcement systems. Chief?
Thank you, sir, Mr. Mayor, Council. I was asked to prepare an update for a briefing on what we've seen with the traffic cameras so far. So my first slide, please. So we went live with these May 19th, 2024. That was when we April 19th, we started sending out a month's worth of warnings. April 19th is when we officially started sending out violations. Since those 2 years have come and gone, we've only had 9 people request to appear in front of the judge on those. They have a collection rate of 60.8%, and there's been 6,170 violations issued with the 3,444 paid, and 194 people have elected for community service. So there's not a lot of pushback. I think that's all right. The best numbers are yet to come, in my opinion, though. The next one, please. There we go. 73% fewer people violating the speed limit in the areas for these since we started. So that right there is the big one to me. So in May of 2024, 635 violations that month. March of this year, 177. I couldn't give you May's yet because I hadn't had time to get those crunched. So the next one, please. There's been some questions about the traffic volume, people diverting to go around the other streets and everything else. We see that happen at all of our school zones. Nobody wants to drive 15 miles an hour when they're trying to get to work and don't have a reason to be at school. One of the other issues is we didn't do any kind of traffic studies beforehand on those side streets, so we don't know what the flow is or was comparatively there. We do now have the means to conduct those, and we're starting to try to get those done on our side streets. The other thing that's difficult to do that is each of these schools, there's 2 grades, so kids are going to go there for 2 years. And we're going to see a variety of different means for parents to get their kids to school. Some are going to stick them on a bus, some are going to let them walk, some of them are going to drop them off. So there's a whole lot of different things that we're not knowing that we can't predict or understand there. But we are working on doing those traffic studies now because we now have the means to be able to do that. The next one, please. So it's just some numbers as to how many people have paid the violations they've issued. And as you can see, for March 2026, there's already been 80 of the 194 paid. Next one, please. So here's the breakdown of how it goes. Each violation is $100. That's by state statute. $27 of each of those violations goes to the company that owns and maintains each one of the cameras. We're currently doing 3% of what is left after that, 27. So the $73, 3% of that will go back to the city to recoup finances costs and costs for the court to maintain and hold hearings and such like that. So it's just an administrative fee, basically the city gets charged. And if Mrs. Rivera decides that's not enough, she can bump that up or do whatever she feels is appropriate with that. At that point in time, we can recoup what we paid to officers overtime to approve and issue those violations, appear in court, or do anything else that's related to the program. Then after that, we have to do a 50-50 split with the state of New Mexico. So I can't tell you what the specific number is because it's going to be kind of dependent on which officer is doing it. They have different pay rates, things like that. But it's probably roughly around $31 of each violation stays with the city after we pay employee costs and everything else. So there truly is zero cost to the city because we recoup every penny that we have to put into it. And getting paid to have a 73% reduction in violations is really good. We haven't seen that on the other streets in town. And since we've just earlier this year, I was able to get ask the change, and we got that through to where we could use it for the police department youth projects. Mainly what that is our school resource officer. He's got different things like impaired driving kits that he can take to the schools and different little things for the kids, the don't do drugs, anti-bullying, just whatever he feels like is appropriate for the schools. He's getting that and helping to make him Mr. Popular at the schools. So next one, please. So the process with this is very similar to our code enforcement violations. It is a nuisance ordinance. So it goes through the same motions that would go through. The property owner bears the burden by ownership, just as the landlord would for the property. If you have rental houses and the weeds are out of control, it's the property owner who's responsible for that, not the tenant. If the owner receives a violation, then they can offer up the person that was driving it if they wanted to, or if that person wants to go in, we can change the name to theirs as well. And it's rare that someone will offer up that they do, but our school bus drivers have been nominated by the schools on several occasions. So have other city employees and such like that. Because the city hasn't been immune from finding our employees violating it as well. So we've got that. And then, if they want to go see Judge George, they can go see Judge George and plead their case to the judge, at which point in time the officer will come in, show the video of the vehicle going through, and then because we don't have to prove who the operator was, it's just the owner who's responsible. Next one, please. So if the vehicle doesn't have a license plate, obviously, we're not able to issue a violation right away. If we can later identify the vehicle, then we can issue that. It will read temporary plates. It has a very good camera on there. So even through the tinted covers and things like that, we're still able to read the plates. Some of these other people who have habitual violations coming through and aren't paying those, we go out and wait for them and we give them a traffic citation that will impact their driving record and insurance and everything else if they want to continue to violate. So, and if we can't ever locate them, then we just can't ever issue it. I mean, our goal with this isn't to generate revenue, it's to generate compliance. So, next one, please. And to date, no money has been spent for police department equipment. So, what we have done is we've paid officers to go and help referee ball games so that we can reduce the need for raising rates for kids to play, because we want their fees to go to cover their uniforms and to cover referees if we have to and things like that. But sometimes it's a little hard to get those. We've also purchased the 4 school zone lights that are here on Abilene with the funds. We've got the 2 speed feedback signs that are on Main Street. I've noticed there's been a lot of people hitting the brakes as they come up to those, so that's been good to see. And then we have the 2 traffic data recorders, which is basically a radar in a box. We put it up there and it counts cars, gives us speeds, dates, times, all that kind of good information. So we can do those traffic studies on areas where we get complaints. You know, because typically what we hear is there's a lot of speeding here. Well, when? Well, all the time. Well, we can't, set somebody in front of that house for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but we can stick a box up there for a couple of weeks and identify when the issues are. Or we just identify that it's not really a speeding issue. It's just more traffic volume or appearance, perception, things like that. So we got that. And then it's also paying currently for 6 license plate readers that are set up around town. Now, what those are is just cameras that record license plates. They'll send us notifications if a stolen vehicle goes past. The other day we had one for a missing person that went by. Sex offenders, if we choose to activate that. Wanted people, different things like that. Or when we get the complaints of things like drag racing, or we're trying to find a vehicle that may have been in the area during a time of a theft or something like that, we can go and type in white Dodge pickup or whatever and put the parameters in there and search for that. Now, our policies on that don't allow for officers to just go and search for vehicles or license plates or anything else like that. Since the self-insurers fund has paid for Lexipol policies for us and we're following those, they gave us a really good policy on it that requires us to have a case number to attach to the search, or if it's in reference to a call, before we get that case number, we can put that call number in. And the reason we really haven't seen much with the youth programs is because we didn't have it until just here recently. So we haven't made any purchases since we made that change. But hopefully this upcoming school year, we'll be able to do some more. And the next one, please. And the question of, will we get more? I would like to get more. I've been asked by several business owners along the one ways through town and even on Chicago for them. So we can try to slow traffic down. I mean, that's the whole thing, is safety and slowing people down. If we can't get voluntary compliance, then we can encourage it. At the end of the day, and since I started presenting this. It's never been about dollars. I don't care what they are. I don't have dollar figures because Ms. Rivera's been busy with budget, and I was not going to bother her because our budget is very important. So, but what this does give us is, like I said, we've seen already around 70% reduction in speeding violations. It gives us 24/7 enforcement that's there all the time. It's generated 0 complaints on officers. No officers have been injured issuing these as they could standing on the roadside, especially on the highways or a busy street. No complaints of racial profiling, discrimination, or anything else. And they're out of the way, really. I mean, they're there and they just kind of help us get this going. But to add more to the other streets, I have to get it before the DOT commission and ask for their permission to put these on our streets just because they're state highways going through town. But some of the other ones, like I said, proposed locations would be anywhere through town on 70, 206 going south. We did the studies originally on 3rd Street or 88 when we didn't see statistics that supported it, much like we saw when we tried to get a 4-way stop here at the 3rd in Chicago. The traffic just wasn't there. And the next one, please. Okay. I don't know. I'm happy to answer questions.
Mayor, I just have one. I
Yes.
just want to clarify one point you made, and I think I heard you right. But if, let's say an officer is in the area of a school zone and he gives somebody a ticket in that school zone, even though we're using those, that ticket stands.
Correct. And then we won't issue one through the
From this
system.
other,
Correct.
but the ticket would be an actual ticket.
Right. And those tickets are the ones that carry points on your license, can impact your insurance if you get a bunch of them show up on your driving record, where these are civil violations, just like our code enforcement. They don't show up on a driving record or anything else.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So recently I'd been reading that, I don't know if it was the Attorney General or I know definitely an organization like the ACLU has expressed concern about the license plate readers. Have you received anything from the Office of the Attorney General or anything about the use of those right at this moment?
We have not. Ours just went in. They finally got installed early this year. But since then, they have helped us investigate several crimes and things like that.
Okay.
Yesterday, we were chasing around a stolen vehicle from Las Cruces trying to catch it because of those.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
How is the 73% measured? Is it based off of like previous data where we were not in that area and now those cameras are there? So that's a
That would
decrease?
be a comparison from the first full month of violations to at the time, the last full month, which was March.
Okay. And then how many programs are we providing per year through the schools for the school resource officer?
I don't know how many he's actually doing, but he is at all of the schools, junior high down every day, every week. He's showing up, helping with I can't remember what it's called. At the junior high, they do it every year, kind of life skill type stuff, things like that. Helps out with that. And most of what it's been so far is whenever they ask him for something, he's there doing it.
He was escorting kids down University today that were walking somewhere and he was keeping his lights on the problem.
Nice.
He's always at it.
And right now we just have one school resource officer?
Yes,
Does this program pay for that position?
no, ma'am.
Okay.
This is one of our regular positions.
And then I just have one more clarifying question. The data cameras, flock cameras, are those purchased with this program?
Yes, they're paid for. They're just an annual payment. So
That's all I have.
Yes.
So, a couple of questions. This is implemented by an ordinance. And you referenced it as like a nuisance ordinance. Why does the state receive a portion of this?
because that's the way it's written in the statute book. I'd love to have an answer beyond that. The fact that they make us do it, that's the only answer I have.
I could see them getting a portion of it if it was on a state highway or something like that.
Mhm.
But as far as city streets, if it's a city ordinance, I don't understand why they would be getting a portion.
Because they don't get part of the weave or anything other.
No, but there's a statute that references specifically the photo enforcement, automated enforcement programs,
Yeah.
where it says that has to work.
The other question is, I know you've got some that are repeat offenders. On a single offense, it's hard to recoup somebody that doesn't pay the fine because court costs and trying to pursue that is going to cost you more than what you're going to get out of it. But on repeat offenders, do they try to go after those that have like 7 or 8 tickets?
Oh, outstanding. Yes, and Novoa handles all of that.
Right.
So, but yeah, they've continually, and if we come across them, we go in the system, we update their address and such so they can send it straight to them. And a lot of those, they're not gonna have good registration, so we're giving them new citations that'll actually take them to court for that as well. So
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, is there someone else? I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
When I read that the officers are serving as referees and things that are youth sports, right? That's correct?
yes,
And I had sent you a follow-up question about, is there any way that shows that they're officers to these kids? Because I thought, man, this is a wonderful way for young people to start building trust with law enforcement. And it's a great opportunity for public relations if they really know that those referees are also law enforcement.
well, during the early seasons, when we first got the program, a lot of the officers would be out in a polo or things like that. Some of them would have to show up in uniform because they just got off, and those would be identifiable. But now we just have them show up in the zebra outfit, got the referee shirts. So other than that, there's really not a whole lot. Other than a lot of them are just recognized because several of them, Sergeant Smith has kids that are playing too. He's helped TJ do a lot during basketball season this last year. Helped coordinate and cover gyms and things like that.
Okay. It's a great opportunity to build that between young people and law enforcement.
We can always have them put on a police department hat.
It's something to think about. I was thinking about, especially if they wear their traditional referee outfit or, uniform, which they probably need to be wearing. But for families and children to know that our officers are going the extra mile, I know they're getting paid a little bit, but they're going the extra mile to be there, coming in their uniform sometimes right after a shift to do that. So their kids have sports. That's an amazing opportunity to build goodwill, especially for those children.
It also helps our young officers work on communication skills.
Yeah.
That's a lacking one.
Patience, sometimes the
young
younger they
people.
are. For sure. Well, I think it's awesome. And I also loved when I read that one thing I hadn't thought of as an excellent benefit of the machines is 0 accusations of discrimination or racial profiling, no injuries to officers or anyone else. All of those things, that's not even an issue with these. So I want to thank you for bringing it to the attention of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions for Chief? Okay. We appreciate it, Chief.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, action item 1, community services, Portales Municipal Airport layout plan update approval. Director McClellan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to be really quick because this grant has been going on for a year. Very excited that we're at the end of it. So this is the airport layout plan. We do these every 5 years, a very important document. We have consultants who help us do these plans because they're extremely intensive. They're very important for us to continue to get grants from NMDOT and the FAA. The final step that we do here before it goes to the FAA for approval is you guys approve the draft for it to move forward. Without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to our consultants. This is Kaufman and Associates. And then we also have Moles and Corbin, who are our engineers. So they're here to go over the draft and answer any questions along with myself.
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for having us here this evening. My name is Matt Quick, and joining me is Ali Hewlett, who you're going to hear from here in a moment. But it's great to be here. Like Kelly had mentioned, we've been working on this airport layout plan update over the course of the last several months. We are a firm that specializes just in airports and aviation. We do a lot of airport master planning, which is very similar to this study that we've conducted for Portales. We do environmental documentation and clearances for airports, and then we do a lot of airport noise and land use compatibility as well. So this type of study is right in our wheelhouse. It's been a pleasure coming alongside Kelly and working with the city over the course of the last several months. And we're also, as a part of this contract, obviously under the on-call engineering support services from Moles and Corbin, who Kelly had mentioned that they're here in attendance this evening as well, and they've been helping us as a part of this process. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ali, and she's going to walk you through some of the primary components of the airport layout plan update, and then we'll be happy to help answer any questions you may have at the tail end. So thank you, guys.
Good evening, everyone. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the primary purpose of an airport layout plan update and narrative report is really to provide a long-term visioning document that covers a 20-year planning horizon to act as a guide for the city of Portales and the airport in considering potential airside and landside development at the airport in regards to existing FAA standards as well as projected demand at the airport. And so as Kelly had mentioned earlier, typically a study such as this is undertaken every 7 to 10 years. And so the last time that Portales had their ALP drawing set updated was back in 2016. So we fit within that time frame. And really the purpose of this is twofold. First, we want to evaluate the projected aviation demand potential at the airport. And then second, we want to identify projects that could then meet the needs of said projected demand. And so this is really important to plan for far in advance because you do want the city to be able to coordinate all of those approvals, especially as we get into financing and design and construction of these projects. And so as we move along in a process such as this, the FAA typically takes approval on two components, and that is the aviation demand forecast and the updated airport layout plan drawing set. Next slide. And so what you see on the screen in front of you is essentially the project workflow and how we broke down the different phases of this project. Phase 1 of the project consisted of the inventory and forecast chapters. And so we really looked at the existing facilities out at the airport and then went ahead and populated forecast for that. And so these forecasts were ultimately submitted to the FAA in February of last year and were approved. From those forecasts and projected demand needs, we then put together our facility requirements and a series of alternatives for various projects that could occur at the airport. And ultimately, as we moved into phase 3 of this project, put together a preferred project exhibit, which is our recommended development concept. And this is really going to be the basis of the projects that we get in the capital improvement program, as well as the base for our airport layout plan drawing set, which is the last component of the project that will be submitted to the FAA for approval. Next slide. And so some key outcomes that we had for this study was, again, to create these aviation demand forecast. And as part of that, identify the critical aircraft for the airport. We then populated a recommended development concept plan, which looks at both short and long-term projects that could be implemented at the airport. And taking those projects, we then put together a capital improvement program and essentially implement a realistic schedule and break down the funding costs that would be associated with those projects. And then all of this culminates into the airport layout plan. And this is extremely important because projects need to be put on the airport layout plan drawing set so that they can be eligible for grant funding. And so, again, that ALP set is going to be the culmination of all of this work. Next slide, please. So what you see in front of you is really a summary of the forecast that we talked through in chapter 2 of the report. And so you'll see that we have a base year of 2024 with a 20-year planning horizon, that out there being 2024, and that there's modest growth in both operations and based aircraft. As far as our annual operations, we start with over 37,000 annual operations at the airport and project a increase to over 54,000. Now, this is in line with the FAA's terminal area forecast projections. Moving down the table, looking at based aircraft, back in 2024, when we started this project, the airport had 24 based aircraft out there, with the most amount of aircraft attributed to single engine aircraft. And so looking at national general aviation trends and also just what currently exists at the airport, we then populated a fleet mix. And so you'll see that we kept the majority of the based aircraft in that single engine category. But as we move forward along the 5, 10, 20-year out years, we introduce some turboprops, jets, and helicopters. And this is all in line with what we're seeing in national trends for GA airports. And so, as I mentioned earlier, these forecasts were ultimately submitted and packaged for the FAA to review and approve, and we did get formal FAA approval in February of last year. Next slide, please. So one of the later parts of the forecast chapter is looking at that critical aircraft determination. And so when we're thinking about critical aircraft, we're typically thinking of our most physically demanding aircraft, as well as our most frequent aircraft that operate at the airport. And this is typically a 500 plus threshold on an annual basis. And so this determination is going to be made for both runways at the airport. And it's extremely important when we're thinking about setting our planning standards for the airfield and looking at what our runway widths, runway to taxiway separation, and safety area dimensions need to be. And so based off of the data that we had collected, the existing critical aircraft fell into that B1 small family, and we identified it as a citation 1 for both runways. And then looking at data and just where we were seeing increases in other runway design codes, we noted that there was an increase in B2 operations, and that could be attributed to aircraft such as the King Air 300. And so this is going to be our future or critical aircraft, and that is then what we use as our design code when we're moving into our recommended development concept. Next slide, please. So the graphic you see in front of you is that recommended development concept, and this is really going to be the basis of the ALP set that is submitted to FAA. And so really what you see here is a culmination of projects that address geometry, airfield improvements, safety improvements, as well as meeting that B2 runway design code. And so real quickly, for example, you'll see the diamond blue-shaped outline. That's the runway visibility zone. And so we have projects that would remove obstructions outside of that and elsewhere on the airport. You'll also note that we talk about removal of runway pavement. And again, this is with safety in mind. And so for example, removing 305 feet of pavement off of that 26N shifts the runway protection zone back onto airport property and therefore moves it off of nearby incompatible land uses, such as the railroad tracks. And so from there, if you can move to the next slide, we also looked at landside potential projects that could be used, and we really wanted to focus on what can we do to provide adequate space for projected user demand at the airport. And so for the land side, we're really going to be focused on hangar development and what that would look like. And so we propose new hangar development in the northern and eastern quadrants of the airport and the various infrastructure that would go with that, such as new construction or access roads, as well as apron pavement and taxi lane connectors. Over in the northern and eastern areas of the airport, we noted a potential need for terminal expansion in the future out years, as well as slated parcels on the airport for both non-aeronautical and aeronautical reserves. Next slide. So all of this is then taken and split into each individual project and put into what is known as a capital improvement program, otherwise known as a CIP. There are 3 phases of the CIP, the first being the short term, which is the first 5 years of the project. And what this does is, with the help of Moles and Corbin, we get cost associated with each of these projects. And then we're able to break down where these potential funding sources could be from, and also put together a schedule that we feel is realistic based on these funding sources. And so in your short term, you want to focus really on your safety related projects. And typically we tend to put some pavement maintenance up early on in the CIP. And so that's what you'll note on the graphic in front of you. Next slide, please. The intermediate term is going to be that 6 to 10 year time frame. And so projects that we have listed here tend to deal with making sure that the airfield is going to be built to that ultimate B2 runway design code standard. And so we have projects that deal with widening taxiway widths, separating hold lines and pushing them back further, again, to address our ultimate needs at the airport. Next slide, please. In the long term, we have some more ambitious projects, if you will, with runway extensions. They're going to be your more involved projects that will require things such as an environmental assessment. You'll see the shaded pink, like trapezoidal areas off of the runway ends. Those are your runway protection zones. And we call them out as potential need for an navigation easement or acquisition of property. And so all of that would be related to those runway extensions, which is why they tend to be put in the out years, as well as the need for justification for projects such as this. We also have the projects that deal with private hangar development. We don't put hangar development on the CIP, but we do put projects related to construction that would support said projects. And so we have aprons pavement construction for access roads slated in our long term to help pave the way for those hangar development projects. Next slide. And so here's our cost total. As I mentioned before, Moles and Corbin helped provide these cost estimates from us, and then we broke it down into the federal, state, and local share. Typically with projects such as this, you'll see that federal will put 90% up front, and then you've got the state and local, which is 10% split evenly between the two. And so the actual total of the CIP is estimated at over 49 million. Next slide, please. And then all of this will be put onto the airport layout plan drawing set. So that's kind of what you see on the screen in front of you. And this is just one of the sheets taken from that set and will ultimately be submitted to the FAA for approval. Next slide. So as far as next steps, we're here today to get approval from the council on this project. As I mentioned throughout the presentation, we are also set to submit the ALP drawing set to the FAA coming soon, and hopefully get that review started and process underway. And then ultimately, as these projects actually go forth to get implemented, they'll need to be executed through the city's budget. Next slide. Questions?
Very thorough. Any questions at this point from council?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So how do you determine the actual need for this? Is there a survey sent out to pilots that fly in the area? Do they request expanded runways?
So, are you talking about like the projected demand?
Yeah.
A lot of that boils down to our forecast chapter and what we get from the data. We pull data from a wide array of FAA official websites. We get information from the airport, and we'll run a series of forecasts and essentially look at what's in line with certain thresholds. Typically, the FAA advises us to be in line with their terminal area forecast, which is their predicted forecasted need for each airport. And so they have a certain threshold. I believe it's like a 10 to 15% limit. And so we make sure that we fit within that based off of those projected results. And then what we hear from the airport and stakeholders involved in this process, that also gives us a good understanding of what's a realistic forecast for an airport of this size and what they are currently seeing out there, as well as pulling from national trends that we're seeing across the US. And so all of that is taken into consideration. And as I mentioned, the FAA, the forecast is one of the two areas where they do actually take review and approval of. And so they'll read through that chapter and make sure that they're okay with what we're putting out there before we move forward and start developing these facility requirements and needs that we see at the airport. And so we do that early on so that we can then populate projects that are put forth.
Questions for this phase? Okay, is there another part two?
This is it.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion on this item.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Counselor Rackler, a second by Counselor Ortega to approve Portales Municipal Airport Layout Plan Update. Is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you for coming for the presentation.
Yes, appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a finance action item 1, state audit contract with Patillo, Brown and Hill for fiscal year 2026 audit. Ms. Rivera?
Well, hello, good evening, council. And wow, I don't know that I want to speak after that. Thank you. Okay. I'm here to request your approval to continue using our current audit firm, which is Brown, Patillo and Hill for our fiscal year 2026 audit. The office of the state auditor has already reviewed and approved this contract. It's always contingent upon their approval. They're the ones that generate this contract, and they have a selected list of auditors that you can choose from. And I've included the official approval letter in your packet for your reference. This firm has been very good to work with. They're very responsive, professional, and understand our operations. If approved, this would be our third consecutive year to work with them, which helps maintain the consistency and efficiency through this audit process. As you are aware, audit costs are significantly increasing across the industry. I did obtain another quote from another firm, and their proposal came in at approximately $10,000 higher for the first year alone. Given the strong performance of this audit firm, their familiarity with our organization and the cost savings, I believe at this time it would be in the city's best interest to continue using the firm. We can continue to use them consecutive up to 8 years for the state auditor. At this time, I respectfully recommend and request your approval for the audit firm for FY26.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rivera?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Ms. Rivera, we can go 4 years with the
8 consecutive years.
Okay, and we're in year 3.
It would be year 3, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion on this item.
I make a motion that we approve continuance with Patillo, Brown and Hill for fiscal year 2026 audit.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cordova and a second by Councilor Selk. To approve the state audit contract with Patillo, Brown and Hill for fiscal year 2026 audit. Is there any further discussion? Okay, this involves finances. Ms. Creel, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. So,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
it passes.
Yeah. Thank you for checking on the cost of that program, and I think it makes a lot of difference on trust to keep continuing with someone that you do trust, and we trust you. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, finance action item 2, resolution 2026-17 for the ICIP 2028 through 2032 for the city of Portales. Ms. Rivera.
Council, before you is the list. I will be presenting it as Miss Joe will be presenting tomorrow in Ruidoso. So this is the city's infrastructure capital improvement plan, which stands for ICIP, for our 2028 through 2032 years. As a reminder, the ICIP is a planning and living document used to identify and prioritize infrastructure projects. The ICIP plan is also a tool used to position the city for potential state and federal funding opportunities. It is reviewed by legislators and other agencies. This list represents a significant collaborative effort on our department heads and city manager. They have put a great deal of time into identifying the needs and prioritizing projects across our organization. In addition, this list has circulated multiple times. It has been reviewed and been discussed with Public Works Committee and ICIP Working Committee. We have also made efforts to engage our public, our community, including hosting town halls and sharing information to gather input and ensure the transparency of this process. At this time, the list before you reflects those priorities and efforts, and staff is seeking your approval through Resolution 26-17 for the initial submission of the 2028-3032 ICIP plan. Our deadline is July 1st. With that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Rivera on this item? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion on this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Merrick, a second by Councilor Smith to approve resolution 2026-17 for the ICIP 2028 to 2032, correct? 2032 for the city of Portales. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Creel, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. So,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Rivera. Next item will be city manager, action item 1, resolution 2026-18 for the city of Portales water rate.
Mayor, council, thank you. Shame. It's sparse in here.
It is.
Well, maybe we are putting out too much information that people are starting to have some confidence to look at and show up they're doing good stuff, and I'll look at it like that. So minor correction, resolution number 2026-18. It's not necessarily the city's water rates. We talked about that. This is a portion of the city's water rates. And what this is,
Sir,
yes,
1 second. Is there a microphone up there?
there it is.
Okay.
Okay. And so this is not the city's water rates. It's a look at and requesting approval to stabilize a current portion of the city's water rates with the rates that have been
going in the last couple of years, and I'll explain why. Next slide. The resolution that adjusted water rates was very good for residents. It was aimed at residents. And I think that when we look back, by volume, there was a punitive section in there that was designed to prohibit massive use of water and to equalize the playing field, but it was really targeted on residents. And somehow it got by when someone defined that table. The more water you use, the higher your rate would go up to where it was absolutely ridiculous. And we'll talk about that ridiculous identifier in a second. But what it did was it didn't, or what it did not do is take into consideration high volume necessary users or users that had a necessity for higher volumes, like watering soccer fields, watering softball fields, watering football fields, those types of things. Providing water to our residents, our neighbors in the county by volume and things like that. It didn't think about that. So what it did was it put in this measure of prohibition that said, if an individual user used a whole bunch of water, they were going to get charged a whole lot and a whole lot on top of that, et cetera. And so when we looked at this for 3 agencies within the city and county, it went into the ridiculous mode. It became unaffordable, it became indefensible, and it became inequitable. And you see that in front of you. And one unaffordable, let me give you an anecdotal example. The public school district, if they use the same, roughly the same volume of water that they used all the time, their normal bill was about, I think, $9,000 a month or $6,000 a month, something like that. Talking to the superintendent, I think it's between $6,000 and $9,000, I think. By this rate, it would have gone to $65,000. It's not in their budget. They can't do it, but we can't defend it because when we as a municipality set our water rates and we go into an audit, everything that we charge has to be related to how much it costs to make that water. It does not cost us $65,000 a month to make that water. We can't defend it and they can't pay it. It just doesn't make sense. And then it's inequitable. It was designed to prohibit individuals or families from using a whole bunch of water, i.e. turn their hose on, leave it on, let it run. That's why it was designed. It wasn't designed to provide water to the water co-op. It wasn't designed to provide water to the university, and it wasn't designed to provide water to the school district in correct, defensible, equitable, and affordable rates. It was an afterthought. So this resolution by design is to freeze that rate in time, to propose that they continue to pay the rate they have been paying, which is defensible, equitable, and fair. And then when we go forward, which we're doing, getting that third party to take all things considered and help us determine what it actually costs to provide that water, as well as their actual need for that volume of water. Then we'll come to a meeting in time and space, and we'll provide ideas for fair, equitable, and defensible billing for that volume of water. That's what this resolution is all about. Perfect. I know you have the data in your packets. We can go through the slide. We've got a couple more. I'm really liking slides, so who's affected? Eastern New Mexico University, Municipal School District, Roosevelt County Water Co-op. Water Co-op's a little bit different, but similar. And we charge them for a lot of water because they have a lot of residents and they pass that water on to them. And they buy the water at a wholesale rate from us, more or less, theoretically. And then they pass that on to their folks. And those are our neighbors, and we don't want to charge them $60,000 for $10,000 worth of water. It's just not right. We would end up in court, as well we should if we did that, okay? Here's what the resolution does: freezes the rates, temporary measure. This isn't forever. It's just until we get some ideas on what it really costs to make water by outside agencies and our own help. Authorizes me as a city manager to engage in memorandums of understanding that let those folks calm down, knowing that we're not going to charge them $65,000 a month. It orders a rate study, which we're doing already. You've already ordered that a couple of weeks ago. And it remains the authority, the city council remains authority, you know, to majority vote and the governing body to make adjustments and so on. Next slide. And requested action, I believe it's going to tell you that I'm asking you to approve resolution 2026-18. So we stabilize these water rates, keep people off the edge. We let them know the future is going to be okay and things like that. So subject to questions.
I will start with a couple. The rate freeze is for those 3 customers, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Does not affect the rate increase is already part of the meeting we had a couple of months ago.
No, it does not. And the reason this has to go in, because the way that resolution was written to support those rate across the board. If we stick to that without putting a supplemental resolution or modification in there, we have to stick by that, which means I gotta bill, come 1 June, I gotta bill the school district about $65,000 for 9,000 probably with water.
And how it says temporary, is there a in date in set already?
Not an end date. And it's an event-based timeline. So we need that third party and we need to do across the board cost of goods sold, which is basic business practice. So I don't mean that to like basic business practice. You don't know what I'm talking about. It's fairly common. And then when that feedback comes back, we will present to you recommended rates across the board that make sense. Keep in mind, we have to be able to defend why we charge folks the amount we charge. So within a fairly small margin, it has to make sense. $65,000 to water some football fields for a month, that will never make sense. So we have to do this to protect not only the consumers, i.e. the school system, the university, and the water co-op, but defend ourselves as well. We would be in court and we should be in court if we do that. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
But
Yes.
to your question, it's an event based. When we get that feedback, that's when.
So like on the co-op, of course, I totally agree with you. But what if they have a customer that flagrantly abuses that? Do they have a stopgap measure there that's going to penalize
Counselor,
that
I think you know
individual?
the answer to that question, but I'm gonna go ahead and answer it since you asked. The water co-op is extremely draconian. They're all instrumented with SCADA devices and water meters. If you have a water leak greater than like, I can't remember what it is, but it's pretty small. If it's in the middle of the night and it shows water running, you're gonna get a call from the water co-op.
Okay.
They're gonna tell you, hey, you're using water and outside of your normal parameters. Why do I know that? The city, actually, it's a weird paradigm, but the city in some cases actually buys water from the water co-op. And once in a while, we have a water leak and we get a call from the water co-op saying, you've got a leak, go fix it, or we're gonna charge you or turn your water off.
They're very good at it.
We sell it to them, they sell it to us, and they tell us when we're.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just have one side related. I'm totally on board with everything you're doing. When we get to the point that we start talking about solutions, more solutions, can we readdress with the schools using the recycle water on their fields? I know that was addressed before we came on council and they didn't want it because of the smell, et cetera, but when we get it back the way we want it, that shouldn't be a problem. So I'd like to address getting some of those fields done with the recycle water rather than.
You bet. And I think there's three things on the table there to your question, just to put this out there, we'll talk about it later. And I think they may have been confused because, well, Pat's not here, so he can't back me up on this unless anybody else wants to. But they should have been billed a rate for untreated water. Okay, so keep in mind, when we pull water out of the well field, it's not ready for drinking. It gets expensive after we treat it and make it for drinking. So that what they should not be doing is taking water pulled from the well field, treating it for drinking, then putting it on soccer fields. And that we have both kinds of water and there's different rates for each. So when I talked to the superintendent, she's like, aren't we billed or should we be getting the untreated water? And I said, just make sure you got effluent treated water, which we're getting there, but we're not there right now. You got untreated water, which is raw water. And then you got treated water, which is ready for drinking. That's the most expensive of the three, et cetera. So to your point, absolutely, 100%. They should be buying one of the two, either effluent treated water, which we might find is more expensive than the raw water. So whichever one's the best for the city and for the school district, that's probably where we want to go.
Good. Thank you.
Any further questions?
I have a comment. I just like to thank the entities that brought this to us to allow us to be a good community partner. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we approve this resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Cordova and a second by Councilor Ortega to approve resolution 2026-18 for the city of Portales water rate freeze for 3 customers. Let's see. I'm gonna ask Ms. Creo to call the roll on this one, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Action item 3. Actually,
Two.
we deleted one. Okay. Next action item, resolution 2026-19 drought contingency plan 2026. Mr. Mitten.
Thank you, Mayor. Counselors. A lot of slides here. We'll get through this. There's a couple of slides in there that really essence of this. Drought contingency plan, purpose here is that as a governing body and management team, we would monitor, determine how to best use the water and conserve it, protect the water use and enforce measures to make sure that we both conserve and protect as necessary based on utilization of water and flow of water and any accidents, contingencies, acts of God or other things that cause us to have a conflict between our levels of usage and levels of production of water. Next slide. Talks about the authority and administration, what the city council does, city manager does, mayor does, and different departments do. Next slide. And I know you have this in your packet, and I know you've done the research on this, et cetera. In some cases, there are definitions that we might need to go over, what a drought is, what supply and demand ratio is, emergency conditions, non-essential water use, hand watering, some cases drip watering, right? Drip irrigation, that was the next one, and water advisory board, what they are and what they do. Next slide. We're getting to data slides pretty soon. Monitoring and data. You know, we have a continuous monitoring system for our well fields, water production and water distribution, well field production capacity, water consumption levels, storage tank levels, systems, pressure and performance, weather and drought indicators, et cetera. Some key details there. And all of these things are factors in a drought contingency plan. Now, keep in mind, we know what drought means, but in this contingency plan also covers other things like, you know, the weather can cause drought. But in this case, I don't know, if something happened, an act of nefarious behavior, someone decides they're just going to go take a bucket loader and put a big hole in the side of one of our tanks and the water runs out, we would be under drought conditions and things like that, even though it's not a real drought, but we would be in Dutch. So we would have to do something to counteract that. And this plan kind of covers some of that stuff, not the bucket loader scenario, but the fact that we lose some water. I mean, we're losing it faster than we can make it. Next slide. We're going to talk about drought stage determinations in a few minutes, but what this means and what the Water Advisory Board does and basis for determination, you can read that on your own. Next slide. Now we get into meat and potatoes. Our drought stages as identified in the drought contingency plan. Stage 1, moderate. Demand is up to 70%. Stage 2, severe, 71 to 80. Stage 3, extreme, 81 to 90% of capacity. Stage 4, anything over 91% of our capacity to pull water from the earth, put it in tanks and distribute it so that you can use it. When it references tank levels, we have 30-foot tanks, but basically we fill them to an operating level of 28 feet. So anywhere between 28, 22 feet is stage 1, below 22 to 18, stage 2, and you can read the rest on your own and get the idea. And then the conditions cover each of the water stages. Next slide. Conservation methods, conservation measures by stage. Some of the things, stage 1, things that we kind of, ask people to do. Lawn watering a couple times a week, scheduled hours, only fill 1 pool. Can't even afford 1, so I don't really run down too much. No pavement washing, etc. Stage 2 talks about no lawn watering. I cannot say lawn watering or lawn watering in that. All right, bear with me if I say it out of order. All right, stage 3, extreme, stage 4, emergency. Some of the things that we kind of restrict as we go through this. Okay, that's really the essence of it. How much water are we producing? What do you do when we're not producing enough and we have to go to the next level? These are some of the measures we put in place. These are some of the boilerplate measures. We can put more if we need to. We can adjust it if we need to. But these are the bare minimums that we go to from one to another. So there's a reasonable amount of expectation management. Next slide. Public noticing and enforcement. We can enforce things that help people remind themselves to not use more water than they're used to. We can inform people have given them reasonable public notice that there's been some changes, et cetera. And if they don't agree with it, they can appeal any of the findings or actions or whatnot. So that, you know, we can address that case by case. Next slide. There are emergency authorities, so if that bucket loader does hit that thing, there's people and organizations that help us make decisions and enact them, and how long the decisions are made and enacted, et cetera. And what they do in those cases. There are exemptions. Next slide. Resolution 2619 is basically asking you to approve the the drought contingency plan is written so that the city has a roadmap and actions to conduct in the event that water production and distribution changes for natural, man-made disasters, anything like that that comes up. We don't have to call a meeting together and say, yay, verily, something happened. What do we do now? We have something in place. That event happens, reaction happens, and then we go from there. We don't have to think about it, crunch a bunch of stuff. There are things that we know, and we publish this and people know this as well. So if they go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, stage 4, there's a reasonable amount of expectation management. Next slide. And then based on that, I'm here for questions, comments, et cetera. But I need a drought contingency plan. We have to have one, really non-negotiable. And I'm asking you to approve this one so we can move forward, put this in place, and then get to other business that it takes to manage the city.
Okay. Is there any questions from council? Mike, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just, when we get better metering on the well field, is some of the things we're using to decide the level's gonna change? Because this is very, very similar to what we had before, that we all came on and were fighting against. So I'm kind of concerned that it looks almost like what we had.
I would argue it looks similar to what you had, but here's the thing. We have to have one. Right? It's not an option, so we have to have one. But to your first question, when accurate meters are in place for both production and distribution, will the plan change? 100%. Okay. Yeah, and we're gonna find a lot of things out too. Like I mentioned, the water co-op, if some water is leaking somewhere, they know about exactly where it is and how much. We don't have that technology in place yet. We're getting it, and we'll be able to do the same thing.
If I might,
Yes.
on the water board, the
Advisory board.
water advisory board, the word just skipped me for a minute. I don't know why, because I've been on it ever since it started, but we've gone over this up and down, sideways, backwards, and there's no real way to implement a contingency plan, drought contingency plan, any differently than what we've got it constructed, because we don't have the data in place to back up any other type of means of doing it. So it is definitely going to change whenever we get all that in place. And what we've done is basically started out our levels at what we're currently at, and they just get more severe from that stage. So, and we put it in the hands of the city manager and the public works director to make changes as they see fit, while also notifying us of any of those changes and the public and keeping them notified. So I really feel like we've covered it as well as we can cover it until we get some of that other stuff put into place. So that's why Water Advisory Board recommended to come to council. But we'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has on it.
I do have one more, sorry, I wasn't done, but anyway, on the citations, who does that fall under? Is that under code enforcement? Is that, I mean, if they drive by a house at noon in the middle of the day when nobody's supposed to be watering and they've got their sprinkler system going, which I see often, who's in charge of that?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement. Okay. So we can report that just like a lost dog or anything else. If I want to call code enforcement and say, this yard is watering every day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sure.
Okay.
And I think it also needs to be said that in conjunction with all of what I just talked about, rates and the being set correctly are also going to affect the amount of water usage that people are abusing the system now currently. But when we get more up-to-date metering on each one of the residences and more up-to-date metering in the fields, then and then a new rate plan, I think a lot of that is going to iron itself out. So
Yeah, I would go so far as to say that we will recover water that we're probably losing.
Yep.
We can't tell right now, and I don't want to open up a discussion on that. But with the technologies and things that we're buying and putting in place and starting to do now, to your question, this plan will change. And we'll probably see that we don't use as much water as consumers as we think we use. I think we're probably making water and giving a lot of it back because we don't know, there's no way to tell where leaks and stuff are. We'll leave that there for another conversation another time because it's not really the agenda item, but it will change to your question.
Questions down this way.
I've got a statement on something that was concerned with at Water Advisory Board.
Go ahead.
I kind of wrote it out so I could stay on track. I want to emphasize the importance on ensuring that the governing body is notified at the earliest possible point during any crisis, especially when conditions escalate to stage 3, the extreme stage under our drought contingency plan. At stage 3, we are no longer in routine operations. We are in crisis. Decisions made at this point have immediate and significant impact on residents, businesses, and essential services. For that reason, the plan should require that an emergency city council meeting be called the moment stage 3 conditions appear. Early notifications and immediate convening of the council ensures that governing body, the elected representatives of this community, have the situational awareness needed to coordinate resources, understand operational impacts, and support a unified emergency response. Without early involvement, the city council becomes reactive, learning about critical actions only after they have occurred. That limits oversight, reduces transparency, and weakens public trust. The current plan delays notification until the next scheduled meeting in an emergency. That is neither efficient nor sufficient. Stage 3 and stage 4 conditions, critical supply shortage, or system failure are far too severe for the governing body to be informed days or weeks later. Emergencies require immediate decision-making, and council cannot provide oversight if not informed in real time. Best practices across municipalities are clear. Immediate governing body notification, emergency meetings at crisis levels, operational staff handling technical response, and elected officials providing policy direction and accountability. Our plan does not meet that standard. This plan requires public notice before enforcing restrictions, but does not require notifying the governing body before or during an emergency action, and that is backwards. At stage 3, we are effectively in a crisis. At that point, the council must convene and begin coordinating. Early notifications is not just good practice, it is essential in maintaining accountability, ensuring proportional actions, and protecting the long-term interests of Portales through oversight, ratifying emergency declarations, funding budget allocations, state and federal aid requests, and to approve emergency spending. And I've got everything else I think is in order, but I have an amendment that I've drafted that would account for that. The meat and potatoes of the rest of the plan, I think, is spot on. But we're notifying council. We talked about in our Water Advisory Board that we were going to have a notification set up, and it's not in this new draft. I have total faith in the city manager and the public works director and the mayor. in the event something happens, but we need to be notified, not notified after the public's notified.
If I could offer a rebuttal respectfully, um, I would agree that council should be notified as stage levels, not only the severe stages, but technically anytime a stage level is changed, it would be standard practice, I believe, to notify council members as to what's going on, because they're the ones that are going to field the calls and the input from constituents. Calling a city council meeting to approve what's already been approved, I do not think is a necessity. As a matter of fact, I think it complicates the issue. It introduces new levels of failure. It's counterproductive. It puts city council, which is a legislative body, directly into executive actions, which the city executes these things. City council legislates policy. So it's the stay in your lane factor. The city council does not engage in operations. They oversee policy. And that's exactly what we're doing here. I would be in full agreement to notify council. And basing it on the past, I know where some of this is coming from, respectfully so, because council wasn't notified, but that isn't an indicator of what new city management, new public works, or new city council or city government would do. Of course, we're going to notify council, but to ensure the confidence in that, at the last water advisory meeting, we stated that we wanted to set up the policy of notification separately, and it was asked to intentionally leave it out of this so that we could make a side policy indicating how the notification tree would be implemented, because it also might serve as a model for other things besides a water emergency. So it could be used for some other type of emergency. So,
May I?
pardon me?
To that, may I?
Yes.
Okay. First off, we already know how long it takes to change a document. We've been 2.5 years on this one. And the point I'm trying to make is not that we're dictating what the city does as far as getting out there and fixing a problem, as I stated in the water advisory meeting. It's for us to be able to do our legislative jobs, which is get in here and find out what the city needs. We have to pass amendments and budget allocations, any of that stuff. We need to be prepared for this before we get to, we're going to be like whoever it was that was fiddling when Rome was burning. That's about where we're going to be if we wait too long to notify council. And I think notification of the governing body should be part of this document. I think it would be malpractice to not have, I mean, we've already got it stated in here that we're going to notify the people before we notify the council of what's going on.
If I could address that, I don't think that there's a separation there. The document states that people will be notified. I think that includes everyone. I don't think that isolates the council. The other thing is, we hired a city manager to manage the city. And I do not believe that the city council should be micromanaging the city manager. If he does not do his job, if he fails to notify people, if he fails to rescind stage levels when all indicators are that they need to be rescinded, then we need to have a city council meeting and address those issues with him. Secondarily, if we trust our city manager and he needs to convene, if he needs to convene a city council meeting, either Mr. Mitten or myself can call an emergency meeting if it's something like all of a sudden we need $500,000 to fix this emergency. Obviously, there would need to be a emergency city council meeting made to approve that type of purchase. But for general operations, when we have a document that tells us exactly what stage, if this tank level falls to 18 feet, we are in the next to most severe stage. The city manager doesn't have to make that decision. I don't have to make that decision. Council doesn't have to make that decision. The plan has already made that decision, and we have approved that plan. So to me, there's no need to approve what we've already approved. Notifying council, yes, I agree with that 100%.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not saying that we tell him what to do. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we become available immediately to assist where we need to assist. If we wait until 2 weeks for the next council meeting, we may have already gone from stage
To
two
do what? I mean, I think you're trying to script the
Well, you didn't, no, you didn't, no. We could be going from stage 2 to stage 3,
Mhm.
and we're in a bind, and nobody is asking him to not do his job. We're not saying that. We need to be notified so that the governing body can govern at that point to assist in allocating money and to passing amendments and whatever he needs. We need to be available to him. But we can't wait until we hit stage 3.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
We're all citizens. We're gonna be notified when you notify the citizens. So we're gonna get the same information that citizens are at the same time.
We should be getting more and different information that may
We
not be able to
will,
go
we're
out.
gonna- We will at a certain point.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So there's a good point brought up to some degree about if more money needs to be spent. Do we currently have a threshold? Like, for instance, was there a threshold of money that can be used or spent? And then once it exceeds that amount, then the council has to be in reference to what Mr. Mayor was talking about?
I would defer that to the finance director, but I would say under procurement rules, anything under 60,000, I could just,
Okay.
need approval to do that. To use general funds to do that, but after that it has to go through procurement rules. Generally, there's procurement rule things set aside for emergencies. So, but I would defer to Ms. Rivera to get the answer to that later, because we weren't prepared for the question, not that there's anything wrong with it. But since I do have the microphone here, and my question, Counselor, not necessarily to you, but it's rhetorical, is would you say no? Which is kind of what Counselor Merritt brought up. If the bucket loader accidentally does hit the tank and water comes gushing out and we're automatically in stage 3, are you gonna say no, go back to stage 1? We know the answer, you're not going to. You're gonna say, no, we lost that much water according to plan, stage 3. I do get your point. But it's gonna take a minute for us to figure out what we need for funding and stuff. And I kind of see your concern, but would you say no? With this plan right here, if you lost all your water, are we gonna come together on that day, hold a vote and say, should we go to 3? We're not gonna do that. And you're not gonna say no.
Exactly.
You're gonna say yes.
Go ahead.
If I may, I think part of the hesitation or wanting to have some safety parameters or is not geared towards you, but just the history of what happened and us being on the other side of the fence and not agreeing with the decision makers or how it played out. The PR was bad. Across the state, we're running out of water. That wasn't the case. Emergency status wasn't lifted, even though the tanks were filled up. So I think there's just some hesitation there that, and it's not against you, it's not against the staff. We just want some protocols there.
And that was all considered, which is why there's timed phases to go back to a lower stage. It's got to meet that 72-hour window before you can make that change and go out of a stage 3 to a stage 2. So those things were not in the original plan. These things have been implemented back in there. And it's to keep a yo-yo effect from happening. We don't want to be just going from stage 1 to stage 3 because everybody decided to turn on their water at one time and we've gone into a short crisis that we can recover from. There's things built into the plan to address that. And we just need to let the plan work. And it's probably just going to have to work for a short period of time until we can get some meters in at the well field and on the residents, and then implement a different plan. Hopefully, I mean, we're looking at a year to 2 years, in my view, of this being in place, and then something different being, and it may get reworked even before then. You know, we may see a need to bring something else and change it, but I feel like that it addresses what it needed to. I appreciate your concerns, Thomas, and we went over this in Water Trust Board and we voted on it, and we made the motion to approve this and to send this version to City Council to vote on. And I appreciate the debate, but I feel like we're overstepping if we take that step that you're saying. We are micromanaging. We are getting into something. Because what are we gonna do during that emergency meeting?
Can I address what you just said? Because we keep going back to people thinking that I'm saying that we're micromanaging. We are making ourselves as a governing body available to that man right there, so that if he needs immediate action out of the council, he's got it.
But
the
difference
I
is
wasn't
you're
finished, sir.
requiring it.
Yes, I am requiring that the
Okay.
governing body be a
We
part
are
of an
available
emergency.
to him anytime he needs us.
Anytime. I mean, that's a spoken, that's a given.
But you're requiring it.
No, but also remember, I spoke that let's look at this 10 years from now. That the next governing body and the next city manager is standing there. Quite similar to what happened the last time. We need that fail-safe, which is the governing body to step up. The governing body didn't step up last time. And that's why we got in such a position that we got into. That's why what drove me to run for this seat right here is because the governing body did not step up.
That's why we have a new governing body.
That's exactly right. So I would be remiss if I did not bring this up and say that the governing body should have a seat at the table.
Okay. But if that situation happens, we have every right to do just that without it being required.
But that's the point. There was a requirement last time and it didn't happen. We need to, I mean,
So I think that
this takes us, officially takes us out of it. You know, it takes the governing body out of this emergency. And I think that's ludicrous for us as a governing body to accept that we are not part of an emergency of our town and of our people and of our constituents. I think that that's out of place. I'll leave it at that, but I'm sorry, Miss Veronica, go ahead, please.
that's okay. I think the difference here is the transparency from our new body to us as the information that we're getting, because prior to, the information wasn't relayed until it was already happening. So I'm fairly confident that our existing staff is going to articulate what we need to do, and if and when a meeting is needed for an emergency, that will be called. We didn't have that last time, that's correct. But as things progressed, we moved forward with the information that we had. But that is not the case in this time. So being that happened in the past, that's true. But you can say that for a lot of things. You know, there's a lot of things that we're doing differently now that are better. There's things that, you know, we're continuing to do that we have in the past. And we just have to look at this plan and move forward. But I am one that, yes, if something is going to be changed, I didn't have that information prior. I would like that information ahead of time, just so that when constituents are calling, I can have something to speak on. And I have full confidence in the staff that that is going to take place.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please.
I think the way Mr. DeWitt is seeing it is, yes, we're here now and we're making changes. Mr. Mitten is making changes, but that's not what we might see in 5 years from now, and 4 years from now, and 6 years from now. So he's just wanting something in place because we might, God forbid, not have this good city manager in years to come. And God forbid we go back to what we had 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And he just wants to be safe for when we are in the situations we were a couple of years ago.
Well, and I believe that that is why we have Mr. Mitten standing here now, because those changes were made at that time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please.
if in the future we have a city manager that doesn't do as good a job as Mr. Mitten, who's responsible for that? It's the governing body that hired them. So to a degree, well, the governing body will always have a say in who that person is going to be and whether or not they're going to be a trustworthy person for the citizens. And it's up to the citizens then to make sure that this governing body is full of the right people that are going to make sure that that city manager is in place. And from experience, I have learned that a lot of times, if you look at people and say, we trust you, we're going to trust you that you have the best interest of our community at heart, whomever you are, that can sometimes weigh on people to do the right thing and to work their best even more than rules and regulations.
I pretty much agree with all that. But if you don't have a due process in place, you have no process in place. I mean, if you don't have by the numbers to work by the numbers, you just don't have it. And if we're going to, I don't want to be a council of just yays and nays on budgets and parades. I want to be effective in the time of an emergency. And this takes us, there is no effectiveness of this council in the time of an emergency based on this document.
I'm gonna refute you on that for
Okay.
a couple of reasons. You have already mentioned that this document was ludicrous, and now stating that this council has no responsibilities. This is a situation to where the council, this is the document that the council will approve or won't approve. So they will be an active participant in this plan. And this plan, I cannot think of any circumstance that you can come up with that this plan cannot address. It makes mention of contacting people. It makes mention of stage levels. The stage levels are determined without being emotional, without being biased. If it says 18 feet, we're here. It doesn't matter what we say, he says, or I say. We've all determined, if we determine that if it says 18 feet, we're here. If it says 20 or 22 feet, we're here. It's inarguable. The only circumstances that cross outside of that lane is if we have a catastrophic situation that requires immediate money, for example, then that's going to happen. And he's going to call a meeting, and Liliana is going to be there to tell us how much money. And this council, we don't have to wait 24 hours.
For action.
Yeah, we're going to take action in the smallest conceivable amount of time that it takes to deal with that emergency. Then we're going to be answering to the state of New Mexico as to why we call that special council meeting to deal with that emergency and let them determine, was it truly an emergency or not an emergency? I don't see, while I don't think this plan is perfect, it is white paper, it is theoretical, but anything we say up here is theoretical until it is put in place and it is used and we see where its weaknesses are, where its strengths are, what needs to be changed or what doesn't need to be changed. We're sitting here scripting the emergency. Emergencies don't happen that way. We need to see how this plan interacts. A lot of your concerns, mine are identical. We went through that stuff together.
Yeah, we
We
did.
argued against people about those things together. But I don't see how this plan does not address those things.
The only thing that I don't see it addressing is the notification of the governing body. I mean, how much more important can that be? To make sure that we're here, to make sure that we're making or helping him make decisions, getting him the tools that he needs, you know, and starting that at stage 3 when it's a crisis before we hit stage 4, which is an emergency. At the time of emergency, Mr. Mayor, that's yours. You're in the driver's seat, period. At stage 3, we should be working to keep us from getting to stage 4.
At stage 3,
But we're not
Mr.
going to be
Mitten is
there.
managing that emergency.
I'm sorry?
At stage 3, Mr. Mitten is managing that emergency, and I only kick into gear when he is not available or his position is vacant. So,
And if there's an emergency, there's still a process to where we have to follow the rules to call the meeting. So at that
Correct.
point, we're being informed because we can't make a decision or a vote prior to having that meeting.
Correct.
If I might,
go ahead, Bruce.
I I totally understand both sides of this discussion. And I believe we've gone over it several times. I don't think it's a very difficult thing to resolve. I think
got an amendment.
adding one phrase into that plan that says specifically notify the council is not that much to ask. I don't.
If I may interject, and you're welcome to watch the last Public Works, or I'm sorry, the Water Advisory meeting, that was brought up. Do you want to put that in this plan, or do you want to put it in the next plan? And it was voted on and stated that we were going to do that on the next plan. On the next agenda of the Water Advisory is the beginning of the discussion of the notification tree. So the public and other counselors, if you haven't watched the meeting, you don't know that. But all of this has already been covered. This is recovering a topic that has already been covered. The notification tree begins discussion at the next Water Advisory meeting.
And that one will pertain to any emergency.
It
correct?
could.
That's why it's separate, almost. a
That's
separate
why it
thing.
was separated, because it could potentially address not only the a water emergency, but it could also address other emergencies of a notification tree. In other words, and only for example, Mr. Mitten could notify me. I could be in charge of notifying council because of the governing body separation. Other people are involved. He could notify Roosevelt County Water Co-op. He could notify ENMU. And that's just an example. But we felt like it was important enough that we worked on the and it should be very simple, but work on the notification tree separately. And then that notification tree could have the requirement linked back to the drought plan, is that this applies to the drought plan, and maybe it applies to this scenario or that scenario. And then on the next revision of the drought plan, which we all know there's going to be one, if another clause needed to be put in there to reference the notification tree, it could be done.
Let me give you an example. Say, for some reason, both of our water lines coming into town rupture at once. Okay, we're losing all of our water. If you put that clause in there, Mr. Mitten has to convene a city council meeting to have us say, we need to shut everything down.
No.
If we leave it in place like it is, he makes that decision, he notifies us. If we see a need to convene as a council, we can do that. But the decision has already been made, the steps have already been taken to stop that.
But you misunderstood what I said.
No.
He is to keep working. He doesn't stop just to wait 24 hours for us to say, grab a shovel and go dig it up. He's to keep working. I mean, I'm sorry if I interrupted you, but you misrepresented what I've corrected about 5 times. He is to keep working, but he's just to get a hold of us and let us know that there's a serious issue that we need to convene on.
With all due respect, your paragraph that you added to the drought contingency plan said that a city council meeting must be convened within 24 hours as a mandate. Now, if you changed it, if you changed it, I don't know about it.
Not a problem with that.
Okay.
And I did change it at the last water advisory meeting. But yeah, there was nothing wrong with that. That if there's that kind of an emergency, yeah, we should be convened within 24 hours. Not before he can do anything, though.
I think the people, if we were to have a terrible emergency, whatever it is, and the people see the city and the governing body, you know, working together in terms of the working body has agreed to put this in action so that the city is free to do and take care of whatever emergency arises. And our city sees the city jump on things and get things fixed and protect our water. They're going to be far more thankful for that than whether or not, respectfully, Councilor DeWitt, whether or not we convened a meeting and made sure that the counselors, I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to assume what's in your heart and your mind, but I understand as a counselor and as someone that also believes in being accountable to the people that elected you, you want to feel like you're on top of things, that you know what's going on, so that if your constituents come to you to talk to you, you know what's going on and you feel like you have a hand in it because that's what they elected you for. And I completely understand that. But at some point too, we also have to take into consideration what's best for the people. If that's why we're here, what's best for the people? In my estimation, what's best for the people is to get the thing fixed and taken care of while we are notified and we are on top of what's going on, so we can talk to our constituents if they have questions, and to be a complete and total support to the people that may be out in cold weather up to their ankles in cold water, and they're doing everything they can for the entire community.
I agree. But also to add to that, to be able to have an answer for them instead of saying, I don't know, I didn't get a call.
And that's why
I
agree
have
that
no
we
idea
didn't
what's
notify.
going on.
I love what the mayor said, and this is what I would have suggested, was that the manager calls the mayor, and it's up to the mayor to keep the counselors abreast of what is being reported to him.
Well, if we ever get that phone tree, maybe that'll happen. Because
gonna work on it.
I'll just kind of
So-
rest my case there. I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna work on it. We're
No,
good.
you're good. I mean, this is what this is all about.
Well-
Mr. DeWitt, and I agree with that because, you know, prior, a few years back, we would get, even if there was a homicide in town, we'd get a text message that said, our officers are, you know, knee deep in a homicide. I will keep you updated, because people are going to be in town seeing, you know, our officers working. It could be something like that, or a fire hydrant's busted on Avenue C. You know, let your people know that they may need to avoid the area of a grass fire, because our first responders are working that grass fire. So that information is helpful. So I'm really excited for the phone tree.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, any further discussion tonight? I know we're gonna have further discussion. Okay,
I'm gonna make a motion to approve this.
okay.
Second.
Drought contingency.
Okay, have a motion by Counselor Merrick, a second by Counselor Watkins to approve Resolution 2026-19, the Drought Contingency Plan 2026. Any further discussion? Ms. Carrillo, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. DeWitt?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
No.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Self?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Okay, we will move to the next action item, City of Portales logo.
Well, that was fun. We'll let this get queued up here. So this is really what I would consider, with all respect, I believe this is a courtesy. The city logo has been changed in the past and wasn't by resolution or ordinance.
But we want to do this together as a community. And the city staff's been working on this, and we're going to take you through some data points here. But it's time. It's time for a new logo for the city. And it's time for a new logo that represents the rich history of the city, that connects us to our past and even to the future. Next slide. We have an opportunity here. You look at a couple of these data points on the slide. Roswell makes a whole market out of aliens that may or may not exist from space in silver saucers. And they turned it into a huge attraction. They turned it into a huge market. I thought Roswell was a farm in the middle. This is a true story. I thought Roswell was a farm. I didn't even know it was a city, but I knew aliens were reported there. I'd never been there until I came here this time. But it's a big deal. Fort Sumner, Billy the Kid. Did he die there, buried there? Is he really there? Headstone's been stolen a couple times. You know, it's a thing, and it ties into history. Portales, aliens or no aliens, I don't know. But Portales, I know that, is it the Columbia mammoth?
Colombian, yes.
Columbian mammoth, dire wolf, camels, horses, giant sloth. Sloth.
The Portales Point.
And people. We're here in the megafauna area that we have our city on top of. We have that. We have proof of that. It's there. It's part of our history. It's right underneath the town. And we talk about the Blackwater Draw site. That's just one site. There's a whole river basin all over the place. We talk about a site where we found a few mammoth and some dire wolves and stuff. The whole area was covered with this kind of stuff. And we know it's part of our history. And we can, exploit that in a good way, but capitalize on it as well, because I can never probably point out an alien from space. But I could certainly take you to a museum and show you that dire wolf walked here once upon a time, and men and women hunted them, and so on. So we have an opportunity to tie that in to our logo. Next slide. The Blackwater Draw site. Archaeologists around the world, speaking many different languages, come here to look at that site because it's so prolific. It's so important to the history of humankind. And we are very blessed to have that right in our backyard. Now, that's just the big site. I argue we're standing on top of it. Well, some of you are sitting right now, but I'm standing on top of some of this stuff. It's world famous. It's a national, if not a world landmark. It at least goes back 13,000 years, and it's confirmed that it really exists. I just feel like we're not doing an awesome job at letting people know that's here, advertising that it's here, and having that interaction really with humanity. People from all over the world want to come, who are in the field of archaeology. They want to come and take a look at this. And I just think we're not doing an awesome job of advertising that. Next slide. Why this brand works. Verified by science, globally significant. You heard me say it a couple of times. Uniquely ours. First confirmed well, man dug well. I'm sure there were some ladies involved too, but well, it's visually powerful, and like an alien that may or may not exist from space. It's a tourism driver. Is it marketed correctly, advertised correctly? More than just archaeologists will come to see it. I would. I liked dinosaurs when I was a kid. I liked the Flintstones. I liked anything that had people from days of yore pedaling cars with their feet, which may not have happened, but I would have come and seen it. Next slide. As a city staff, we kind of looked at some options for logos. We talked about the Clovis Point. And although I have the greatest respect for the city of Clovis, I didn't really want to make the Clovis Point the focal point for the city's logo. The mammoth is good. It's already out there on the highway, not an actual mammoth, but if you're coming in from Muleshoe, you'll see a faded billboard with a mammoth on it. If you go to the skate park in town, you'll see a mammoth logo on there. We've already done some of this, but the two things together are fairly famous. The spear points that are found here near or in town, and the mammoth itself. Now, keep in mind, I said dire wolf and giant sloth and things like that, but the mammoth is very prolific. So we decided, having done a couple of prototypes, that we would put the two things together
the spear tips and the mammoth and come up with a pro forma or prototype logo. Next slide. And we believe it looks like this. Captures a spear point, simple graphics. I believe there's some background shading in there. And we really feel this is the logo we should adopt. Slogans, we'll kind of engage the city and let them get involved with that. But some things you just have to pull the trigger on. You just got to move forward. Can't get in a quagmire. Move forward. We believe this is the logo. Next slide. It's kind of a courtesy, but I wanted to involve you, so I'm going to ask for your approval this evening on that logo. If it needs any small refinements, we'll take care of that. We'll engage community input for slogan ideas. And then we'll start rolling out the brand immediately with no cost, low cost things like using that logo on the website. When you go to update your business cards, use that logo. When we do the capital outlay trifold, we will use that logo. We want to start immediately. So my ask this evening, discussion if you will, but I'm going to ask someone to make a motion, adopt that logo so we can move forward and start getting to some this and some other business. Subject to questions.
Any questions from council?
I have one.
Yeah.
Will you send out a PDF so that if we are updating our apparel or business cards, we can use that?
Will I send out a portable document file, PDF?
Actually, it's
So
JPEG, yeah.
okay. Put me on the spot, I don't believe it. But yes. of
The
course,
picture.
100%.
Okay, thank you.
Without a doubt.
Swear.
How soon are we going to put it out to the community for slogan? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to put, it's not that I want to hide this from the community. I'm going to pull the trigger on this now. So we can start the branding of the logo itself. Slogan, I would recommend till school's back in session.
On letting the schools get after it.
New schools, things like that, give them opportunities to do that. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that way they can work the slogan around the graphic. Yeah.
Or just the slogan goes with it.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
There's somewhat of a timeline involved because the website is being revamped as we speak, and they have a timeline for submissions. So. Any other
Motion.
question?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We're going to make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Counselor DeWitt, second by Counselor Ortega to approve the proposed City of Portales logo. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries. Okay, we will now move to the city manager report.
Okay. I think I owe a rent check to the podium here. The staff's making great progress on the budget. I know that there were some long faces the last time we talked about a budget. So I can let you know that ran the numbers with Miss Rivera earlier today. We've been working on this. We're gonna bring a budget to the finance committee and the city council that is in a better financial position than we started 2026. So 2026, you started about $900,000 upside down. And when you get to the last day of the fiscal year, state fiscal year, in 2026, you're going to be almost budgeted out at zero, which is a good thing. That doesn't mean you're broke. That means you made up that $900,000 and we're right on the mark for the thing. So that's good news. We are starting off less than, let me make sure I get this right. So, you know, you picture this in mind. The number upside down that we're going to start 2027 is a smaller number than where we started 2026. Significantly smaller. Okay. So you're in better position going into 2027. And we haven't even ironed out all the wrinkles on the efficiencies and things like that. The staff is working hard and doing things like working with wholesale fuel vendors. We have a projected $351,000 fuel budget. The staff is working on getting the taxes straight. We shouldn't be paying state or federal tax on that. That's about an 8%
reduction. So they're working hard on getting that reduction squared away. They're working hard on getting, you're gonna see an announcement on the street to do a contract with a wholesale fuel vendor. We're looking for a 10% discount on fuel on top of that, which is gonna be $35,000 clawed back. So they're looking line by line on all these things for these efficiencies to claw this kind of stuff back. We have several phones and phone accounts that go nowhere. We're pulling those back. That's $6,000, so on and so forth. So you're seeing, not only are you in a better financial position on the first day of 2027, you were clawing the stuff back in the first quarter where you're going to be even in a better position. We are aligning labor with where it is used. We have general fund labor being applied to enterprise fund activities. You can't do that. You will go broke. Anybody who does that will eventually go broke. So we're realigning general fund activities with enterprise fund projects so that the money needed for enterprise funds comes from enterprise funds as opposed to subsidizing it from general funds. Can't do that. It's even a rule. The auditors will see that eventually and go, you're subsidizing this stuff with these monies. And we're getting that straight, probably the first time in a decade or more in the city of Portales. So you will see not only a budget on the 21st and the special convening of the council for the first look at the budget. You're going to be in a very good place, and you're going to be in a better place by the end of first quarter 2027. So that's part of the city manager update. We're doing a lot of work with the Water Trust Board, the Department of Finance Administration, and the Finance Authority and engineering partners to get the water project funds for 24 and 25 cleared up and try to get some money realigned. We're making great progress on that. And that's really about where we are with the city manager's update. There's some critical dates coming up. They're on your calendar. If you want a whole bunch of people here, and those who are here, pay attention to the calendar pretty well. But I'm going to go to my Periscope here. Good. May 19th, we have another, well, that's today. But May 21st, we have the initial finance meeting going forward from here. May 25th, everybody's off. So keep that in mind. That's Memorial Day. May 20th, my daughter's birthday. May 28th was a special council meeting for that preliminary budget I just talked about. June 1st, planning and zoning meeting has been canceled, so don't show up if you attend that. And June 2nd, we'll have our next city council meeting. Subject to your questions. Councilor Record, did you have a comment?
I was watching Chris's eyes back there. Sorry. That was
It says canceled on the calendar. Yeah, look on your thing. I got it right off the website. They literally cut it and pasted.
I was just watching his face. She didn't know that.
So if we need correction, we will, but it's literally, that's how I got it. I copied it off the website, so. Some questions? All right, well, I guess I can vacate now. I need a real estate agent to sell this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Minton. We now have, we don't have any other staff comments. We have, counselor comments. Mr. DeWitt, you start down on your end.
All good.
Dina?
Just a reminder, today is the last day to submit an absentee ballot. So hopefully everyone that needed to got that done. May 30th is the last day for early voting, and June 2nd is primary election day. So please get out and vote. That is it.
Counselor Saul.
Just want to reiterate the statement Mr. Ratcliffe said earlier about, I think now is the perfect opportunity to start working with the schools. I know Mr. Gagos is not here, but the more affluent water we can start using, the better off relief the system. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Let's volunteer him for something while he's not here.
Yes. You all right?
Mr. Watkins?
The Medic Rodeo with the Melrose bombing range this morning and this afternoon. That was very interesting. Y'all missed a good show.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to thank the Water Co-op for inviting us to the banquet that they had last week. It was very informative about what they are doing and how they're conserving water. So thank you to the citizens of the county for doing that. That's all I have.
Okay, Counselor Merritt? Okay. Counselor Rackler?
I'm good today, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Smith?
Just that I got to attend the active shooter training a few weeks ago, and it was one of those things that I crossed off because I had so many other things on my list to talk about. But I wanted to. I know Antoinette's not here, but very grateful for that you put together. It was very informative, very helpful, and it was nice seeing that we're doing everything we can to look after our city staff and everyone that works for us, and that they go home at the end of the evening. And the other thing I wanted to share was, I guess she left. I was going to share. My dog is a huge black-mouthed cur, and he tears up our yard, and he needs a lot of running space. So we finally started taking him to the dog park, where he can chase that soccer ball to his heart's content and sleep all day. So I just wanted to say that it's very cool that we have the dog park. Would like to see more people utilize it, and it was really neat. So I'm sad that Miss McClellan wasn't here to hear that, but I'll share it with her later.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. I'm gonna roll my mayor's comments and mayor's appreciation into one segment tonight. When I took this job, I anticipated many things. Hard work, lots of meetings, lack of money, and many challenges. And they have all been true. There are things I did not expect, and some of those just kind of make your day. Last week, I received a handwritten envelope, which is rare, and inside was a handwritten letter, which is even more rare. And it definitely caught my attention.
Oh.
And it reads as follows. Dear Mayor Davidson, my name is Genesis. I'm learning about New Mexico. I'm in 2nd grade at Grace Christian Academy. What is the famous food there? What is your favorite place? And can I please get a souvenir? From Genesis. So, definitely gonna put together a little souvenir package. But I also wanted to do a little bit more. I wrote a little proclamation, and I'll read it as follows. Honoring Genesis. Whereas young students who ask questions, learn about history, and explore the world around them help build a brighter future for all communities. And whereas Genesis, a 2nd grade student at Grace Christian Academy in Chicago, Illinois, took the time to write a thoughtful and heartfelt letter to the mayor of Portales, New Mexico. And whereas her curiosity about New Mexico, its famous food, favorite places, and culture brought a smile to City Hall and served as a reminder that kindness and learning still matter very much. And whereas the city of Portales is proud to encourage education, curiosity, friendship, and adventurous spirit of young students everywhere, now, therefore, I, Michael W. Davidson, Mayor of the City of Portales, New Mexico, do hereby recognize and honor Genesis for her wonderful letter, her interest in New Mexico, and for making the mayor's day a little bit brighter. So, at any rate, we'll dedicate this meeting. Tana, can I get you to do me a favor? We'll get you to come take a photo of our council, if you will. And I will hold this letter up for Genesis. And we will give her a smile.
Everybody slide in.
Slide in.
Oh, you mean I don't have to be pinched up against that wall after all?
Okay, thank you so much.
There is room.
Then we shall make sure that she gets that and a nice little care package with some peanuts, and I couldn't put any enchiladas in there, so she's just gonna have to wait on that one. So
You're gonna have to do that graphic.
yeah.
Put that graphic in there.
With
No, I'll put it in with his care package. Okay.
okay. With there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all.